Today we have Miss Rashmi Kumar from Canada. She's an author and a radio host. Let's welcome her. Hi,
Hi,
Rashmi.
everyone. Hi,
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you very much. Thanks for accepting to be with us for next 60 minutes in Expert Talks with Hari. You're the 51st guest, and we'll be discussing things in three segments. First segment is about you. Who
Hmm.
is Rashmi? Where was she born? And explain a little bit, elaborate more on your schooling, your college, your best friends, professors, teachers, uh, nice incidents which you could remember, so things which actually bring you smile when you think of those incidents. Those are the incidents which you can share, and then slowly come all the way the career journey till who you are today, and then the lessons learned in that journey. This is the first segment.
Okay.
Second segment is about the uh, theme where you will be discussing about your author side and also your radio host side. And the third segment is a surprise segment, which I'll explain you when
Mhm.
we reach there. Now we'll start with who is Rashmi. Over to you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Hari, for having me for this interview. And I think it's a great opportunity for me to be able to reach out to people, at multiple stratas of society and possibly countries as well. So thank you once again. And who's Rashmi? Um, Do you want me to give a personal or a professional description? I always ask that question whenever I'm asked who's Rashmi.
You can blend both.
Okay. So I would start with me as a person on a professional level. I'm a writer and I have written three books. Currently, I'm working on my fourth book. My first book was titled Stilettos in the Newsroom. My second book is Hook, Line, and Single, and third book is Goliath and I. And I'm working on my fourth book right now. And I'm also a radio host. I worked with a radio station that I just quit a few days back, and I have joined a very exciting new radio station. Uh, uh, I will reveal the details of it a little later, not right now. And radio is something that I have done since my childhood. Like I'm a radio baby. Both my parents are in media and broadcast, so radio happened to me genetically. Other than that, I have been a journalist. I worked in India as a journalist for close to 10 years, and I worked with different magazines and newspapers. My last job was with Deccan Herald as the features editor. And yes, that's to sum it up. That this is who I am. Um, Personally, I think Rashmi is a very simple girl at heart. Um, Crazy, sensitive, and I think I'm a regular girl. A lot of times people see pictures of me or have this certain image of me as a journalist and writer and a radio host, and they think, oh, she is somebody who's very hoity-toity, but that's really not the case. When they come to know me, they understand me and realize how down to earth and simple I am. So that's essentially who I am. I'm a home girl. um, and yeah, that's pretty much it. I love to travel. I love life. I love people who love life. And yeah, that's about me in a nutshell.
Okay. Now, my next question is what were the learnings in your journey from your school, college, till who's Rashmi today? There would have been a lot of areas where you would have encountered some hurdles, some challenges. Uh, Discuss a little bit on how did you cope up with it? How did you embrace those hurdles or failures or fears? And what were the lessons or what techniques did you adapt to cope up with failures which came along your way?
Hmm. So starting from my school days, I think I had a really good childhood. But But it had its own challenges because my parents shifted to Delhi. I'm essentially a Maharashtrian. I was born in Pune, but I never lived in Maharashtra. I never lived in Pune. I was there only for 3 years when I worked with the Indian Express. But a large part of my life was spent in New Delhi. So when my parents moved to Delhi, I was all of three, and it was very difficult for me to fit in because it was heavily dominated by uh, very typical North Indian culture, and I felt like an outsider on many levels. So to begin with, my dad had to drop our actual last name. My dad's middle name is Kumar, and we had to retain that name only so that me and my sister could fit in. The skin complexion, like I'm brown colored, and everybody here was very in Delhi. Everybody's Punjabis are light skinned, right? So I had issues with that as well, and my skin tone was and those days I'm talking about during my times. Nowadays. People of all color and all origins are accepted, but during my times, yeah, I think that was a bit of a thing where people were like, "Oh, who's she? Ye kaun aa gayi?" And her skin color is different. Third thing was acceptance because of my hair. I have very curly hair. So, North Indians were not used to seeing somebody with a dash of curly long hair. They were used to seeing very straight hair. So, that was another challenge for me. So, yes, physical appearance was definitely something that I had to deal with as a school going kid. When I reached college, when I was in my teens, I worked on myself, and whatever I thought was thrown at me as a negativity, I turned that into positivity. So I embraced my skin tone. Like I embraced it so much that people actually ask me, where did you get this tan from? And I'm like, I'm born with this tan. I'm born with this skin color. And people come up to me and say now that this is a very attractive skin tone, and we want this kind of a skin tone. It's not brown, it's not, it's something different. And I'm like, okay, yeah, many years ago I was made fun of because of this. Curly hair became a trend. Like everybody wanted to have curly and hair, and I just embraced it. So, Hari, I would say that every negativity that was thrown at me, I took it and I turned it into positivity. I turned it into something that I could use as my own strength. So, yeah, just to give you a little snippet of how my school life was.
Okay, okay. Thanks for sharing that. Now, next, what I want to talk about is like, how did the author in you come out? I mean, what was the moment, or where did you uh, realize that you have an author in you?
So, I was really young. I must have been about 6 or 7 when I wrote my first poem. And I didn't even know what it meant to write a poem. I didn't know what writing meant because kids are just about learning at that age. But I scribbled something and it rhymed. I don't even know what I scribbled, but my mother was super impressed. And she actually saved that piece of paper, and she was the first person who felt that I have a writer inside of me. But anyway, it was long forgotten. Years went by, and I never left writing. I continued writing. I During any competition at school or college, I invariably won the first prize always at school and college level for writing. But it was only much later on in life. I I had a friend who passed away actually a few years ago. So he mentioned to me one day, he said, Rashmi, have you ever thought about taking up writing professionally? And I was like, no, because writing those days was meant to be for, or so was the perception, it was meant to be for people who were intellectuals, people of a certain depth of intelligence. And I never looked at myself like that. I was somebody who was very shy. I'm still very shy. I felt I had a very low self-esteem. So I never really looked at myself like that up until the moment where he kept pushing me to write and write and write. And every single day I wrote, he used to read out everything that I wrote. And it was long forgotten. It was dumped in the closet. But you know what? That gave me a lot of confidence. It gave me a lot of courage to look back on that scribbled big diary and see that it is actually me who's written that stuff. And it set a belief in myself that yes, I could write. So when I got into journalism, I approached some publishers. They knew about me because I had written stuff about them, and they were more than keen. Rupa was my first publisher, and they were more than keen to sign me on for my first book. And I was very excited. It became a bestseller. It became a super hit, super duper hit. So yeah, that was my that's how my writing journey began. It was a lot to do with overcoming my own fears, my own personal challenges. You know, burying a lot of my personal skeletons of feeling inferior or feeling low on self-esteem and confidence.
Okay. The when the writing journey started, and when did you write your first book? And then, of course, you said like there were different stages in it, and then what all has happened when it was identified by your mom. When was your first book published, and then how did you feel? And then what I actually want to know is like when you wrote the book. Of course, the first thing is like when you penned your thoughts, like when you started writing, what were the thoughts you had first? And normally, because what authors say is like when they are writing the book, and after finishing the writing the book, and when they read the book, they have three different approach towards the same writing and the same thoughts. So explain on that.
Right. So my first book came out in 2010, and I was really young that time when my first book came out, and that was the whole idea. I wanted to break this myth that only people of certain age and intellectual level can write a book. And in journalism those days, only people who were aging and with gray hair and maybe bald head and pot bellies could write a book because they are more experienced in life. And here I was, a young kid, a young girl who had written this book, and out of nowhere it became a super hit. So in 2010, like I mentioned, my book came out, Stilettos in the Newsroom. And sorry, I lost the chain of thought. What's your second part of the question?
No, I was asking like normally when an author writes the book, first when they had the idea of writing the book, and when they write the book, they have one complete idea of it. When they finish the book, they have another approach or a perspective towards their own book. When they read the book, they have the third perspective. Right. I wanted you to explain on that.
Right. Yeah. So in this case, it turned out exactly the way I wanted it. And I think I just got really, really lucky with my first book and most of my other books, number 2, number 3, because it was picked up exactly the way it was. So yeah, my story would be very different than most other writers maybe who are struggling to write, or most wannabe writers. So in this case, my story turned out to be exactly the way I wanted it to be, exactly the way I had envisioned it.
Okay. Mm-hmm. The other part is like, when it comes to, especially with this COVID situation with lockdown and all those things, lot of companies have come up with new strategies. They've come up with this to adapt to the new normal. and to also understand. Some are still trying to understand how this is going to be in the future, because even though there are a lot of predictions, and only when it comes to that particular point we are able to understand how do we face it. Because initially it was told, okay, there'll be a lockdown for 15 days, then it became 1 month, then it became 2 months, 3 months, and now we're on a never-ending lockdown
Yeah.
as we near the end, and then we again have another lockdown. That is one. And second thing is the business model. When it comes to, I'm touching on the radio host part. Media companies initially had a different approach, and here in India, I come from a place called Chennai, where a lot of radio hosts were asked to operate from home. All the interviews were done, and they were given remote work from home option, where they have to work remotely with all the information, all the news, all the interviews, everything was operated from the home. How do you see this? Because normally an interview is better when two people sit across and then they discuss. But what we are doing now has become the norm now. And people are actually, like, in a way, yes, it's good. It's connecting people all around the world over this kind of online platforms. But how do you see this way forward? Because when it comes to radio host, uh, media, and these areas, the interpersonal connect is important when it comes to this kind of interviews or shows. So how do you see that way? I mean, how do you see that going?
You mean the way we are doing right now, online
Correct,
stuff?
correct. And
As
on the way
opposed to
forward.
the traditional way. Okay. Okay. Um, Interesting question now. Yesterday itself, I was having a chat with a dear friend of mine, and we were talking about how media, and especially radio, has not exactly been equipped with doing this kind of a setup that we are doing right now, like a live thing, or just having an online thing. Without having a personal interaction, or without really being inside the studio, without actually facing the mic. So traditionally, I would say, especially radio, has never been equipped for that, and that's the reason why. So, for instance, these last 4 months, I was working with World FM 1017 in Edmonton, Canada, and I was the one who was handling their programming for the last 4 to 5 months from the studio. So I was literally the only person who was in the studio, who was connecting all the other hosts. So I was doing the prod, I was doing the board hopping, I was hosting my own show, and it became a bit challenging. But eventually, all of us did realize that it is workable. It is not a situation that can't be worked. And I think that is the beauty of COVID-19. It has made us realize that there are many things that we thought were not workable, which were not practicable for us. That I think it is practicable, it is workable. Like 5 months, all the hosts were on air, the show didn't stop, we never stopped entertaining our listeners, we never stopped interacting with them, but only the method changed. So I think, Hari, to answer your question, humans are by nature very adaptable. They're very malleable. They're very flexible. Give them anything, and they will make something out of it. So we don't necessarily have to be in a certain traditional setup to make things work. So I think, like right now, this is also we're working it out, right? You're sitting in India, I'm sitting in Canada, so we are working it out.
Okay. Let's say a person who's entering now, not a person of your caliber who has worked already, who's able to adapt. I'm talking about a person who enters now into this industry, and they get used to this particular model. And then, say, down the lane, like say 3 to 5 years, we slowly go back to what we were before. Adapting for those people who are much more tech savvy and reliant, they're more relying on this kind of technical equipments and these kind of instruments. And when it comes to interperson, because I personally feel it is, because I also do training where people who have started doing this kind of trainings online, they might require to equip themselves to when it comes to in-person training, because that is a bit more difficult, and it is case to case. Person has to adapt and then understand and then do the training. Similar way, when it comes to radio, for that matter media, there's a different mindset required when we have people around. And now it's just like sitting in our own studio and then answering phone calls, I mean answering or asking questions is a different mindset. So how do you see this gap will be filled for people, especially who start their career now?
I think your question itself has the answer, because it all comes down to adaptability. We never knew up until March, February, we didn't know that this is going to happen to the entire planet Earth. But it did happen. Things changed. We adapted ourselves. Let alone media, we adapted ourselves to a new life. So I think the answer lies right there. So even for the generation to come, even for people who are fresh graduates who are coming straight out of schools, I think for them, this is the new normal. So they wouldn't know what it really means to go back to the studio or handle the operations right in front of the mic, or handling the typical stereotypical console, and they wouldn't know that. But for them, this is the new normal. But if things do go back to being normal, we do go back to transitioning to the studio. I think, again, it comes down to adaptability. They would learn, like we all learned the new skill of, I mean, I didn't know what programming meant when I was, board hopping and I was handling the production part. I didn't know that up until the time I actually started doing. So I think it really does come down to adaptability. It really does come down to changing with times. And we're just talking a very small aspect. This is just media. I mean, look at us as humans. We've adapted ourselves. And we've adapted ourselves so well to the COVID-19 situation.
Okay. Now, I'll give you certain situations, and you can take time. You can come up with the solutions, or you can come up with as creative as possible. You're free to spread your creative wings. You receive a phone call, and they say like you've been given an assignment. You have to. It's for a 6 months period, where you will be given a position where this position requires you to do certain things. For example, let's say you've been asked to work as chief minister for 6 months period in Tamil Nadu. Okay, in Tamil Nadu. So Ms. Rashmi Kumar is the chief minister of Tamil Nadu, and she's been asked to take care of people of Tamil Nadu, look at the areas where they need support, what sectors would need immediate attention. When I say sectors, it can be health, education, public health, it can be women empowerment, child nutrition, food, livelihood, can even cover agriculture, all these sectors. Okay, I'll leave it to you.
I don't know much about Tamil Nadu.
No, this is completely imaginary question, so you can go, or you want to take Maharashtra, let's say,
I don't even know much about Maharashtra, because, I mean, although I'm a Maharashtrian, I never lived there.
Okay, you're a governor of Edmonton. Now,
am I replacing Jason Kenney? Okay.
Okay, so you want to focus on 3 sectors which will benefit people in long term. Okay, not just like immediate quick fix. This is something you're looking at another 5 years, 10 years. This should impact the people positively. What sectors would you focus as a governor? This is a set specific period. They're giving you this option to go ahead and make the change. What areas would you focus?
Okay, so I'm the premier. Okay.
Yes.
Mr. Jason Kenney, sorry for this, but I have to replace you for a few minutes. So he's our current premier. So okay, the first thing that I definitely would work on is the COVID-19 situation, because I do feel our economy, and I've very strongly felt about it. And I thought I would come up with funny answers, but you put me on a spot here. And I'm in no mood to have fun right now. This is a very touchy topic. So when our economy opened up, and when our premier announced that we are ready to bounce back, I absolutely felt it was very premature, because we had a lot of community infections in our province. A lot of people were getting infected. Thankfully, the rate of mortality was not as much, and which has been true for most parts of the world. But in Alberta, there was a time a couple of months ago where the rate of infection was skyrocketing. Like every second person was getting infected, and in the midst of that, it was decided that the economy will open up, the malls will open up, everything would open up, including the non-essentials. And I felt it was extremely premature, and this step should not have been taken because we all spoke about a second wave coming. Everybody was aware of that. And in spite of that knowledge, we were still asked to bounce back. Yes, there were situations where it was not enforced on anybody. No single Canadian was asked to get out of the house on force. We were never asked to do that. But I think it could have been prevented. The rate of infections could have been prevented had the economy not opened up. Number two, I think, and I really want to congratulate India and the way it handled the COVID-19 situation a few months ago, because there was a mandatory lockdown which never happened in Canada. And up until this date, I wonder why we never enforced a mandatory lockdown. Like, why is it that nothing was shut down on a mandatory basis? Because parks were open, like I mentioned, a lot of things were still open while those things should have been shut down. To give you an example, a few weeks ago, some restaurants were open, and those restaurants on White Ave, a lot of Canadians will know what I'm talking about. They were the birthplace of the second wave where the infection resurfaced. And this could have been prevented, but it wasn't done that. It wasn't done that way. And as a result, what happened? I mean, one person has the ability to infect hundreds and thousands of people. So we had to wait for somebody to get infected so we could shut down the restaurants. Number three, there are talks that the schools might open up during the fall. And I absolutely think that's another very preposterous thing. It's very, very premature. And we cannot enforce this on ourselves. A lot of people I see do not still wear masks. They do not wear gloves. How can we expect little children at elementary school to follow social distancing and wearing masks and gloves? I think this is outrageous, and it is something that should be absolutely prevented at a provincial level. So if I were the premier, I would absolutely take these mandatory steps and do everything that I can in my capacity to stop this.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing that. Now the next question is again imaginary. This surprise question is just to understand like what areas would you focus. Like now you are given an opportunity to be in an island for 30 days, and you're allowed to take 3 people, your favorite people, along with you to spend the time with you. And these 3 people should not be people who are related to you or who are known to you. Who are the 3 people who you take with them? And the project is this: basically, you go there, you spend the time there, and by the time you're returning, you have to come up with a book. What would be the story of the book? And that I'll leave it to you, the creative part.
3 people?
3 people you can take along with you who are not related to you or known to you.
Do they have to be people, or they can be things as well?
People.
People, okay.
3 people.
Not known to me.
Yeah, not known to you. They can be writers. They can be from the past. That's okay. Your favorite writers. I'm just giving you some clues. So now open your creative wing and let me know what book you're going to come up with and what will be the story of the book as well. Just an outline is fine.
I would. Wow. Okay, I would definitely take with me. My number one choice would be on an island. I don't know if you've heard about this actor called Matthias Schoenaerts, but I think his originality is Austrian.
Okay.
And he's outstandingly good looking. And he acts really well. He's done a few French movies and a few Hollywood movies. And I think he's so stunning. I definitely would want to take Matthias Schoenaerts with me. That's my number one choice.
Okay.
My number two choice would be to take with me this Colombian writer, Gabriel Garcia Marquez. And
Okay.
I absolutely adore him. Like, I adore him. He's passed away, like, as we all know. But I just love him. I love him to the core. I love his work. And the depth with which he writes, I don't know where he gets those ideas from. He's prolific. So
Okay.
definitely my number two choice is Gabriel. I would
Okay.
definitely take him with me. My number three. Let me think. That's a tough one. I think I would take my book publisher with me.
Okay.
I definitely would take my book publisher with me, so that we can sign the contract right away and we don't waste time, because I don't want to come back and then start writing the book. I want to finish off the book while we're still on the island and while I'm still taking tips from Mr. Marquez. Just get done with the deal, sign it, get the money, get the contract, get done with it. Book number 4 ready. And the book would essentially be the memories of Matthias and Gabriel. That's Gabriel Garcia Marquez, the book that he wrote, The Memories of My Melancholy Horse, right? So, yeah, more on those lines. So,
Okay. That's nice. That's nice. Okay. Now comes the another question where I'm giving you a time machine. You can go back to whichever year you want. You can go back to whichever year you want, and you can choose one person who you would like to see, maybe learn something from them, and then you can come back. Who would you choose and why?
learn something from them.
Correct.
Okay. That's a tough one. Hmm. Wow. Okay. If I were to go back in time, I've been greatly inspired by the works of Christ. I think I would definitely love to be born in that era while he was still alive, and I would love to be one of his disciples, one of his followers, and just get to know how he managed things. What was his personal life all about? What did he do? What did he eat? How did he get those kind of thoughts that he did? How did he manage to change the world? How did he sacrifice his own life? What was the scene at the cross that during that crucifixion, like we all know? So I would definitely, how did he bring about change in humanity, in mankind? That is something I'm so intrigued by, and that is an era I would definitely love to go back to, and possibly live that life with him as maybe his one of his followers.
Very good. Very good. Now we'll touch on the topic. See, this life, we ourselves with our limiting beliefs, and we ourselves with different notions what others would think, and there are multiple reasons, combination of reasons. We ourselves restrict ourselves instead of opening our wings and doing what we want to do. You can refer in, metamorphically, or different. It's like, at a certain age something is told, at a very young age somebody tells something, and then you start believing, and then you think that this is it. Okay, I'm not good in maths, or I cannot sing, or I cannot do this, just because somebody else has told at a very young age. We form certain beliefs, and then that doesn't allow us to be who we are when we grow up. In order to shatter those beliefs, and in order to come out of that, are there any techniques, or what I'm focusing is, like, a person, for him or her to be the genuine person who they are, what are the areas which they have to focus? Because you touched on it a little bit when you were explaining about your childhood, certain things which, all the negatives which came your way, you turned it into positive. But I want you to elaborate more on the certain beliefs which people take just because it's been told by their known people or people around you. It could be some relative or parents, or it can even be teachers.
Mm-hmm.
Because how do you see that can be, a person can equip themselves when they grow up? Because we can't go and change what has happened in the past, but when this person comes with, let's say a person says, when I was 4 years old, something that I won't be able to do. Imagine I'm wearing a red colored glass. By the time I touch 20, there are 15, 20 glasses I'm wearing, and my vision or my perspective about world is through these lenses. How do I remove those glass one by one, and I see with my eyes to understand this is the world, and I can do what I want to do? I'm just
Right.
asking your opinion on that, and your understanding. And then, because see, a lot of people do not understand that very clearly,
Mm-hmm.
and they still get wound up in their own beliefs. They, and they feel like, they're not enough. How do
Mm-hmm.
we make them that they are enough?
Right. Yeah, that's a really beautiful question, Hari.
Thank you.
um, I'll give you my own example. I think I would like to elaborate this uh, the answer for your question with my own anecdote.
Yes.
So I come from a very traditional, very conservative family. Where just like a normal, uh, typical family where both parents are working and children are studying and they are being looked after by relatives and neighbors and whatnot. While we were growing up, uh, and I can only talk for myself, not for my sister. I have a younger baby sister, but I will just talk for myself. While I was growing up, I was always told that it's okay to keep your mouth shut. Just up until today, my mom always emphasizes on she stresses a lot on staying quiet, keeping it shut, keeping it subdued. And a large part of my life, I grew up believing that I need to suck it up. I need to suck it up. I need to soak everything that's happening around me and never speak up for myself. As a result, what happened is that there was a lot of layering up of a lot of residue that started building up inside of me. If anybody came and said anything to me, instead of saying things to them, I kept it inside of me, and it started affecting my personality because I felt I was very underconfident. I didn't have any personal belief in my own self, and I started looking upon myself as somebody who's not worthy, as somebody who's not exactly capable, because I was always told to keep it low, keep it low, keep it low. So the only way it came out was through a lot of anger or a lot of angst. But then I decided to turn that around, and I felt that another way of communicating your feelings is also by being firm and expressing yourself in a very dignified and respectful way. So you don't always have to be angry. You don't always have to, sometimes even that is needed. But you don't always have to, in order to express yourself, you can always have a healthy debate. You can always have a healthy argument with somebody whenever you disagree. So that has been a huge part of my learning. And when you talked about that conditioning, wearing different glasses, those were the glasses I was wearing for so many years of my life. It took me a lot of time to start taking off that one glass after the other and standing up for what I truly believed in. And that manifested into something that I recently experienced in my life. And what is that? When I've been here for about 8.5 years now in Canada. So when I was new here, it was very difficult for me to find a job right away. And a lot of people told me, go get some education, get some Canadian experience. And I did that. I did a postgraduate program over here from NAIT, and which is one of the best professional institutes in the entire province. As a matter of fact, the entire country. I did pretty well. I thought I was going to drop out because it was really difficult for me to handle my personal life and to handle a life as a student. But thanks to a lot of my friends who kept encouraging me day after day, they kept pushing me, helping me to believe in me that yes, I could go back to school and do this. And I did that. I graduated. I think I double graduated because I had already done my university and everything whatnot in India. That was phase number one. Phase number two was after education also, it was very difficult for me to find a job because everybody asked for Canadian experience, which I didn't have. I had a lot of experience in India. But typically an immigrant starts off by doing a lot of odd jobs in this country. So most of them end up being either cab drivers or working at grocery stores as cashiers, or doing kind of job, working at daycare homes. And again, I'm not trying to say that those jobs are bad, but they are odd jobs. They are paid on hourly basis. And most people do that because they don't have any other choice. They don't have an option because the country doesn't offer immigrants that kind of an option. So what happens is, as a result, even a doctor could end up working at a grocery store because he needs to run his family. He needs to pay his bills. So there came a time when people actually started labeling me. People actually started thinking of me as somebody who is very adamant, very lazy, who doesn't want to go out and work. And people even said things to the extent that, Rashmi, you can be a meat cutter. You can go, you can cut meat. Rashmi, you can actually go. There's no harm in going and cleaning toilets. And I was like, it's not like I look down upon those things, but if I cannot do that because I don't have the mental mind frame to do those things, will somebody say, Rashmi, go and be an astronaut? Will somebody say, go and be a brain surgeon? If I cannot be a brain surgeon, if I cannot be an astronaut, how can I be a meat cutter, or how can I be a cashier? So that was the simple analogy that ran through my brain. And I was like, why should I take up something that I don't want to do, that my heart or my brain is not allowing me to do? So it was a very, very, very tough phase for me, where I literally had nothing to do professionally, and all I was doing was working on my book and on my own self. But you know what, Hari? I did not give up believing in my own dreams. I did not give up believing in my own capability to make it through. And that is the only number one belief that kept me going, that kept me pushing, that kept me pushing. And as a result, today I think I got what I had dreamt of. Because, I mean, people know me. Edmonton knows me as a radio host. When I left World FM, people wanted to get connected. People were crying, Rashmi, you left. We are like hungry to listen to your voice. That is the kind of love and adulation and respect I receive from my very, very beautiful, and I owe it to them. But I also owe it to myself because I believed in myself. I knew I could do it. I held on. And I really want to thank some of my most amazing and wonderful friends. It makes me very emotional because of which, without them, I don't think I would have been able to stick on this far in life. I want to thank my mom especially. and my parents, who continuously kept believing in me, continuously kept believing, never gave up on me, never judged me, accepted me the way I am, never said that, Rashmi, you are so stubborn that you're not taking up a job of a cashier, you're not taking up the job of a meat cutter. They never ever said that. They said, Rashmi, go for your dream, go for what you truly believe in. And that's what I did. And uh, and I think the universe listened to me, God did listen to me, and here I am today.
Thank you. The next step section is called gratitude slot, where you can actually go ahead and thank all the people who has helped you, mentored you, supported you, assisted you, or was just there when you wanted somebody to sit next to you. Go ahead and name them, and you can go and pay your gratitude to them.
Wow. I really want to thank God Almighty, first of all. I'm a huge spiritualist. Um, not a day goes by when I look up at the sky and say, thank you, God. Thank you so much uh, for for accepting me, for loving me, and being with me through my most challenging times of my life. That is definitely number one. Number two is my mom. Her name is Mridula. I want to thank my mom from the bottom of my heart for loving me and accepting me, for always being there in spite of her ups and downs, and in spite of the many times where we have not agreed with each other, like a very typical mother-daughter relationship. So there have been times where we've had disagreements, but she's always stuck around. She's always stood by me. I want to definitely thank my very dear friend Vivek. I think getting a friend like him in life is is a treasure that that one would never ever want to trade anything for. I also want to thank my friend who is no more, Shumitro. He was the one who pushed me to writing my first book, and that paved the journey for me uh, to be a writer. And I write books now, thanks to him. I think had he not pushed me, I would have never known what it means to be a writer. I want to thank all those people who've helped me in India in the journey of my radio. I want to thank all my seniors in the field of journalism who've always been so supportive, who loved me, who treated me maybe like their own little sister or their daughter. So yeah, and I also want to thank my dad, Ashwini. Uh, I think he kept pushing me every single day to complete each one of my books. So these are some of the most wonderful people that I've met along the way, and I love them a lot.
Thank you. Now, if we sum up the entire life of Rashmi Kumar, okay, as of now, there's of course there's a long way to go, and then lot many books to come from you. But if you sum up your life, what is one thing that you have learned? If topmost learning of your life, share that.
I think my biggest learning in life is, like I explained something with an anecdote, that never stop believing in yourself. Just hang in there. Just hang in there, and hanging very tight, because you never know when the breakthrough it just might be round the corner. And if you give up, then you will be like, oh, but the breakthrough was right there and I missed the mark. So I would say, no matter what situation you're going through in life, no matter what phase you are in at your life, no matter what relationship you're in, no matter whether you're having a job, whether you don't have a job, you're single, you're married, you have kids, you don't have, whatever status you're in, your perfect body weight, you're not perfect body weight, whatever, wherever you are, please don't stop believing in yourself. Just believe that you can do it. Believe that you will come the way that you have come so far. And sometimes the most important thing in life is to get through. It's not to get at, but to get through. Maybe sometimes that's the only way to get at where we want to, is to get through. So just keep getting through. Don't give up. Don't, I would say, don't give up on life. Just don't give up on life. Because once you give up on life, um, that's it. It's all done, right? And there are many people who are depending on you, who love you. So don't give up on life. Hang in there and hang in tight.
Thank you so much, Rashmi. Like, because a lot of areas, the areas which you touched, of all the times now it's much more needed, because lot many people are undergoing, much tough times. There are many people, like, at least I can tell from the Tamil Nadu perspective, have lost their jobs, have closed their business, and there are many things happening. And the idea of this program is to bring people from different sectors and help them through these experts, these people sharing slice of their life, sharing their learnings, and also spreading the positivity. And we strongly believe every single word which came out, you experienced it, you faced it, and you overcame it, and you are here today. So when it comes from a person who has actually experienced it, that has more weightage, and we respect that. Thank you so much for spending your time with us. I requested regarding these things, and then I explained you, we had a couple of times discussions, and I really like the way you had explained the things as, about your childhood, and then how you overcame it, and then the college time, and also about the why not astronaut, or why not brain surgeon, why meat cutter, the comparison examples, all those things I enjoyed. Thank you so much, Rashmi. If you have any final
Sorry.
remarks, you can go ahead, please.
Well, thank you very much, Hari, for inviting me for this interview. It's been, when we are invited, and it says hashtag expert talks. So, it's a privilege for me to be even considered as an expert in something. It's really an honor that sometimes life teaches you so many things in such a short span of time. That you can actually go out there and share that wisdom, share that, I wouldn't say expertise, but share that life experience with somebody to whom it can make some even little bit difference. So I really thank God that, I have this opportunity and the option of doing it. And yeah, thank you once again for considering me for this.
Thank you, Rashmi.
You're doing a great job, because I know that you're positively trying to influence the society. You're positively trying to get people together as a community. And I think there is nothing greater at this point in time, especially to bring people together as a community, because you never know who is suffering, what somebody is going through, how somebody is conflicting behind closed doors. You just don't know their struggle, their journey. And I think what people like you, what you are doing is just remarkable. It's wonderful, and kudos to you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We had Ms. Rashmi. She's an author and a radio host, and there are many people who we see, who we come across, and we do not know just because they mask it with a smile. There are many people around us who are undergoing certain things which we do not know. There are many struggles which they have to face, and they face, and they come out. When she was explaining about what happened in her childhood, we understand what every single kid, maybe we feel and we think, okay, they're playing and they're fine, but there are many areas where each and every kid would be undergoing. So it's important that we understand these kind of emotions, and what would be the repercussions when we say certain things or when we do certain things. I'm really happy that Ms. Rashmi agreed to be with us today, because I know she's really excited about her new assignment with a with a radio company, and she'll be joining the radio station. And I wish her all the best, and thank you so much for watching us.